And welcome to EVTN News. Unfortunately, I don't have a lot of positive news stories for you today, but I'll just get started here. John Giacomo Cardinali, Vice Prefect of the Vatican Apostolic Library, said on October 8th, some Muslim scholars asked us for a room with a carpet for praying. We granted them this request. The Vatican, so Cardinali said that the Vatican's book collection contains incredibly old Qurans. We are a universal library. Uh, anyway, so uh, that's that's that. I guess there's a prayer space in the Vatican now for other religions. Um, Not really anything terribly new because the Anglicans celebrated their fake liturgy at one of the basilicas in Rome, and the Pachamama ceremony, of course. So, not a lot of. Unfortunately, the Vatican is becoming less and less Catholic, which is um, really disappointing to see. And the disappointment just continues. The Archdiocese of Cincinnati announced last month that it has renewed its partnership with the Pro LMNOP Girl Scouts of USA nearly a year after the previous Archbishop ended the partnership. Archbishop Casey said in the official Archdiocesan statement, I am proud of this dialogue and the way we have focused on our shared desire for the flourishing of young women in virtue and faith rather than being solely focused on our differences. Girl Scouts is a secular organization, and as such, they do not share all our views. As the Catholic Church, we are called to uphold the gospel and teach young people the truth of the Catholic faith. Despite these differences, we have reached a mutual understanding that allows us to fulfill our mission as church. Wow. Being church. In the faithful formation of young girls while also accessing all that is best about Girl Scouting. So basically just ignoring the problems and just forgetting about it. Forget about it. It doesn't matter. And the renewed partnership comes just under a year after Casey's predecessor, Archbishop Dennis Schnurr, ended the Archdiocese's 110-year partnership with the organization due to several of its activities and badge requirements contradicting Catholic teaching on gender ideology and LMNOP marriage. In order that all parish schools and parishes end their partnerships with the organization by the end of 2025. So Archbishop Casey, remember, he is a Biden bishop. He was the auxiliary bishop in Chicago before he was promoted straight to archbishop, which is a really um, uncommon path. Certainly, I mean, to say the least. He was in charge of a perv priest organization in Chicago, which was later shut down due to the activities of some of its members. So, that's a complete turnaround from the previous archbishop. Kind of unsurprising. So, yesterday, the big news about cancellation of another Latin Mass hit, and I guess I can talk about that at the end. I'll talk about the specific Latin Masses that I'm referring to right now, though, and this is in Chattanooga, Tennessee, um, or Knoxville, sorry. So the Latin Mass is being canceled in the 3 locations in the Diocese of Knoxville, Tennessee. Now, Bishop Sticka was removed from there. He did some strange things, and there was something about some seminarian that got away with some weird stuff, I guess, but yeah, so Sticka was removed by that, but he was friendly towards the Latin Mass. His replacement apparently just did what he was told. So Bishop Mark Beckman is his replacement, and they will be transitioned. That's yeah, they'll be transitioned to the Novus Ordo rite. So where was this? No, it doesn't say here in this letter. It doesn't say here, but it says somewhere else. If that's the case, and they're evil enough that they will um, force the Novus Ordo onto people for the Feast of Christ the King at the end of October, because the Novus Ordo rite has they obliterated the calendar and um, move their Feast of Christ the King, more like Christ the Humanitarian, honestly, but that's what they did. And so they said, "Oh, we're just gonna instead we'll just have a really, really reverent Novus Ordo. It'll be great." And yeah, that's it. And then they're gonna have a discussion next week at the one parish. So I'm sure that will get pretty heated. Okay, and I think the FSSP actually covered one of the Latin masses. So are they getting kicked out? I guess it sounds like they might be. But there's more information on this, so I'm pulling it up. So the Knoxville Diocese has around 70,000 Catholics. Not a large population of Catholics there. It's actually Knoxville is actually near the Great Smoky Mountains, so it's mostly a tourist area, but really nice. If you've ever been there, you would know what I'm talking about. Especially this is the time of year to go. I mean, really, it's still warm. Although in the mountains, from the foot of the mountain to the top of the mountain, there's a lot of there's a drastic temperature difference, but it's far enough south that at this time of year I would imagine it's still warm, and I don't know if the leaves might be changing colors at this point, so it would be a pretty neat place to see. Maybe some year I'll visit there, but not for. I mean, obviously I won't go to a mass if they cancel all the Latin masses. On October 12th, Reverend David Carter revealed in a homily that Bishop Beckman had received a request from the Congregation for Divine Worship, headed by Cardinal Roach, to implement Traditiones Custodes. So the decision, the priest offended the bishop, and so he basically implied that Roach pressured this priest. Roach pressured the bishop to cancel the mass. So that's actually a new revelation here. That's really significant. I'll get into that a little bit later. And I don't know if I have anything else on that. I don't think I do. And I think there will be more to come, though. I don't think that's the end of that. All right. So in Chicago, a delegation of Catholic priests, nuns, and lay leaders were among hundreds of people who marched from Maywood to Broadview on Saturday in hopes of delivering Holy Communion to detainees at the U.S. ICE processing facility. And that's not the ice that Leo blessed. It's a different type of ice, if you know what I'm talking about. After approaching Illinois State police officers standing outside the facility, the group's communion request was rebuffed, and it was sort of a stunt protest, I believe. They brought it as a Eucharistic procession. Who knows if they cleared it with the bishop? Doesn't matter. I'm sure he supported it. And I think there was something about and there's a debate about the law, whether you're you know whether or not you have approval. There is a question about whether religious leaders can enter detainment facilities without a permit or something like that. I don't know, but I think this was clearly a stunt. And actually, I just saw this article right before I came on air. It is in the video description. I was able to link it there. So Leo is on a hot mic, or well, um, he was talking to the immigration bishop Sites. Sites is solely focused on immigration. Although he did say that the divine praises should be eliminated from benediction. So he has said things. He has made religious comments, just or anti-religious comments, whatever you count it. But anyway, Leo's told Sites, "You stand with me, and I stand with you. The church cannot remain silent," and this was in regards to immigration. And so Leo wants the USCCB to focus on immigration and opposing Trump. Okay, so Prevost, when he was prefect for the dicastery of bishops, invited Bishop Sites, to speak to newly consecrated bishops about the ministry of bishops to immigrants. They also met at the papal audience for the Jubilee for Missions and Migrants last month. And Sites said, and I have no reason to, what do I say, dispute this, I guess. I have no reason to not believe Sites. He said the Holy Father did express his concern for the situation of immigrants in the United States. He is quite aware of the way they are being treated right now, so he expressed his unity with them and with all those who are suffering difficulties in the United States. Pope Leo said he would really like the U.S. bishops to speak together on this issue. And this is another false sense of unity. I think there needs to be some kind of consideration about this. We got egregious things like, LMNOP laws and of course, the slaughter of the unborn. Those are pressing issues, and Leo's focused on illegal immigration, which is, not a surprise. He's following the footsteps of Francis. I mean, there's no question about that. It's really disappointing to see. Now, I guess to end this off, with all these, getting back to the diocesan Latin masses, because Leo's shown that he is essentially he dresses like Benedict, but his beliefs are similar to Francis. His bishops might not be as radical or as bad, but they're still not up to the standard of Catholicism, at least some of them. The ones who support Fiducius Supplicans and Amoris Laetitia and all the garbage, they're still very disappointing. And I think what's going to happen, though, so there was another news story that I actually didn't include in the description, but the Rupnik trial is starting up. I expect Rupnik to be convicted, and then he'll probably be laicized or whatever, and people will say, "Oh, Leo's tough on Rupnik," but don't forget who enabled Rupnik for I don't know how many years. Don't forget, because that's going to be a part of the story too. As much as people want to forget or want to pretend that it didn't happen. So anyway, getting back to the diocesan Latin Mass things, I think diocesan Latin Mass's days are numbered, because if this is true, which again, whenever people say something, I don't have a reason to question what they say. Most people are fairly honest about what they say, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm a little bit naive, but I'm taking these people at their word. Even the modernist heretics, they have lots of problems, but they usually tell the truth, at least in terms of repeating what someone said. Whenever they talk about theology, it's just false. It's false gospel. They believe it. They might believe it, but it's heresy. But but the things that they say about actual events, or what other people say, like what Leo says, I have no reason to believe that they're telling a lie. So And this priest is no exception. I wouldn't call him a modernist heretic, but the priest who gave his sermon and about how, or it said in his sermon about how the Latin Mass was going to be canceled. All Latin Masses were going to be canceled, and basically implied that the Vatican pressured the bishop to cancel the Latin Masses. There's no reason not to believe that. And if that's the case, then all diocesan masses are under threat. And I don't know. Are we going to see any diocesan Latin masses within 2 years? It's a really, really sad to question that. And I know we'll see better days. I mean, we'll win in the end. It's just it's going to be a lot of communities ripped apart, and a lot of people's faith shaken. Really, the persecution is coming from within, and the bishops, not all of them, but for the most part, they'll all comply. Some of them are evil. Some of them are just following orders, which isn't a defense in the Nuremberg trials, by the way. That's not a valid defense, but they're following orders. And are you going to follow orders? I guess that's up to you. And unfortunately, the SSPX is not prepared for what's coming. They're not prepared. They don't have enough priests, and the diocesan priests aren't going to help you out. There's not going to be private masses, and you really need to look outside the box. See if you can get some Eastern Rite missions, get some bi-ritual Roman priests to say a reverent liturgy, and yeah, go from there. All right. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on what you think is going to happen with the diocesan masses. It seems like they are slowly, very slowly headed towards the end, and that's really sad to think about, because there were more diocesan masses than any other religious order's mass, and I think at one point there were more diocesan Latin masses than FSSP Institute parishes combined, I think. But I can't say for sure. I don't really know. But what I do know is that they're dropping. They're dropping very quickly. What could you compare? It's they're dropping like flies. I don't know. They're dropping like flies in the winter when you heat up a building for the first time in the winter after there's been freezes. I don't know. I don't really know. It's dropping like chocolate out of your hand on a hot day. I shouldn't. I mean, it's not funny, but I'm trying to come up with terrible analogies, and I'm doing a terrible job or a good job at terrible analogies. Whatever that means. But anyway, okay, this has been EVTN News, and I don't know what else to. I don't know what else to say, but I mean, this has been kind of a disappointing show. At least in terms of the news, not really any good news, but we'll have good news at some point. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.